measurement of the financing risk associated with profit and loss sharing contract can be done using the credit ratings provided by different credit rating agencies like S&P, okay, or there are some dedicated the dedicated credit rating as well for Islamic banking customers, like stability ratings by S&P, and also sometimes you can also get it from different third-party credit bureaus. Okay, they can provide credit score for particular Islamic banking customers. Okay, and the third one is the Islamic bank can have its own calculation for credit scoring, which we want to emphasize, because the ready-made credit scoring or the credit rating, of course, it can provide an overall idea from the viewpoint of the other party, but if the Islamic bank um, does it in a customized way, then definitely that credit scoring or that measurement will be superior to the third party measurements. So if the Islamic bank wants to calculate its own credit scoring or want to deploy a credit scoring model or a credit risk measurement model, then what are the steps? Number one, the Islamic bank will have to collect data and based on the sample of past customers. Then the Islamic bank will have to choose the explanatory variables. Okay, what variables may be related to, may be associated to the default of the PLS contract. Then the Islamic bank will have to decide on the appropriate model, okay, that can explain the past default behavior based on the chosen explanatory variables, and then apply the model for the new customer. So the first three steps will be based on the data of our past customers, and the last step is to apply the model for our new customer. So that is the target. We will apply the model for the new customer and calculate the probability of default. So let us discuss one by one. So how to, from where do we get the data and how do we get the data? So you know that the Islamic bank may have many past profit and loss sharing customers of particular type, of a particular type. For example, we can say that individual customer, that means for personal financing. Another one can be like consumer financing, or agricultural financing, or another one can be like manufacturing business organization financing, or some other different other types of financing. So if you want to apply the model for let's say for the consumer financing customer, or for a particular retail business customer. Okay, let's say we want to apply the model for retail business customers. So in that case, we will collect the information about our past retail business customers, profit and loss sharing customers, not all, and group them into two samples. One is the bad profit and loss sharing contract, with profit and loss sharing contract with bad outcome, and profit and loss sharing contract with good outcome. So what do we mean by bad outcome and good outcome? We can name them bad PLS and good PLS. We're not going to inform that to our past customer, so they won't be unhappy. If you call and inform them, okay, you are considered as bad PLS in our research, okay, then they will be unhappy. We should not do that. We will do this for our internal purpose only. So we can count some of them as bad profit and loss sharing contracts and some of them as good. So we can give the value of 0 and 1. Okay, for the bad PLS, we should provide the value of 0. For the good PLS, we should give the value 1. Okay, then we can apply the linear probability model, okay, or any other model. So which customers will be treated as bad PLS? So that should be based on the definition of financing risk for the PLS contract. For example, we have said that we will consider a particular contract to be bad or to have had credit risk because they could not provide a sufficient return due to controllable factors and also due to their negligence or misconduct. So if that happens, then we will count them as bad PLS. But let's say one particular customer could not provide any profit and also had loss in the past, but that was due to uncontrollable reason. That was not due to their intentional negligence or what should I say, misconduct. Then even if they did not have given any profit, we should not consider them as bad PLS contract. A PLS contract should be counted as bad only if that was due to misconduct or negligence related to controllable factors. Okay, then we will count them. And similarly, similar to our past example, we will provide 0 value for the bad PLS, or 1 value. Probably in the past we have done for default customer, we have given 1, right? So in that case, we can follow that. We can give 1 for bad PLS so that we get the probability of default rather than probability of non-default. Okay, so bad PLS should be given the value of 1 and good PLS should be given the value of 0 so that we can fit the previous model. Okay. Okay, ignore this one. Here it is written that the bad PLS will be given 0 and good. So actually you can do either way. If you give bad PLS as 0, then you will get the probability of non-default. But if you give bad PLS the value 1, then you will get the probability of default. Okay, so that is actually a mathematical issue. So you can choose any one. Now the next step will be to choose the explanatory variables. Okay, explanatory variables. So what could be the explanatory variables? Like previously we have discussed about liquidity, the leverage, profitability, and so on. But for profit and loss sharing contract, you can have some more explanatory variables as well. So what are the possible explanatory variables? Okay, number one, it can be, okay, what should be the basis of choosing explanatory variables? How can we choose the explanatory variables? So the explanatory variables can be chosen based on number one. It can be based on the expert opinion. Like you can survey the experienced managers of your bank who actually had similar kind of responsibility in the past and who has quite considerable experience with this kind of customer. You can do focus group discussion. There are so many other ways. You can have expert opinion from the consultants and so and so. Then another way can be statistical. Let's say you have accumulated so many factors, 12 factors, but you want to filter them out. So what you can do, you can run the model like what we have done in the past, and you can observe the adjusted R square, or there are some other statistical indicators. You can remove one variable and see if the statistical indicator improves. Like if we think about adjusted R square, if the adjusted R square previously was 60%, after removing one unimportant variable, maybe the variable with insignificant, maybe the variable with the significance level more than 5% or something like that, that is insignificant. So you can try, trial and error. You can try, actually not error, you can try to improve the R square, adjusted R square of the model you have estimated. So that is actually forward and backward selection. So forward means you will increase, initially you will start with only 1 or 2 or 3 variables that are for sure you must include, and then you will add more and more variable and run the model again and again to get the highest possible R square. And another one is you can take all the variables, run the model and see the R square, then remove the insignificant or seemingly unimportant variable and see if the R square improves. So that is another way you can filter out the unimportant factors. Okay, and your own experience with that type of customer. Okay, number one is expert opinion. So you are taking the opinion of the others, more experienced people in your organization. The second one is statistical. And the third one is your own prediction, your own experience with similar customer. So that can be the way of choosing different explanatory variables. Now, based on the Islamic banking research, we can think about several variables, like, and these are just suggestions or examples. We can have two types of variables. One class is customer related variables that we should think about. One is the age of the customer, education, experience with similar kind of business, experience, past experience of having profit and loss sharing financing, like Mudaraba or Musharaka, whatever, for whichever contract we are actually trying to measure the credit risk. Then managerial efficiency of the customer, quality of accounting, information disclosure, transparency, etc. These variables can be related to the customer. Then some contract related variables should also be considered, like amount of capital they are seeking for, the timing of the financing. Sometimes time is also very important, because the uncontrollable things like economic condition, political condition, those depend on the time also. Aimed utilization, and another thing is the length of financing, for how long the financing is being taken. That is also a very important variable. And the purpose of the fundraising financing, aimed utilization of the capital. Okay, type of the profit and loss sharing, whether it is Mudaraba or Musharaka or any other form. Profitability of the proposed project, where the customer is going to invest the fund. Then the agency costs. Okay, agency cost means conflict between the customer, conflict of interest. Actually, it is not any other kind of conflict. Whether the conflict of interest is very high or not. Sharia compliance, whether the degree of Sharia compliance of the proposed investment, or the Sharia compliance of the other businesses or other operations of the customer. Then social effect of the project, etc. These are some suggested, but not necessarily all these variables have to be taken. You will ultimately choose the variable based on expert opinion, based on your own experience, and based on some statistical manipulation. So this is the way you can choose the different explanatory variables. Okay, now next step will be to decide on the appropriate model. We have already given an example of linear probability model and logit model. So that can be a very good starting point. But on top of that, you can go for a Markov chain model, expert system, neural network, etc. So there are so many sophisticated models. You can proceed toward that gradually. But we have already covered logistic regression here, the linear probability and logistic model. And whichever model you apply, you should also test the validity of the model, whether the model is valid or not. Okay, whether it is giving a valid result or not. That is a statistical matter. We have already given all the examples. Now, the next step is to apply the model for the customer. That is the last step of measurement. So you have actually come up with a model with some beta values, coefficient related to the different explanatory variable for a particular type of customer, for a particular type of financing. Now, what you need to do, you need to apply the model for your prospective customer. So collect the information about the same variables of the prospective customer, and then multiply the beta values of that variable, and then forecast the default probability as we have done before. So we have already mentioned, the coefficient is actually the beta value, and you have to apply that. Okay, coefficients for each independent variable or explanatory variable should be found from the model. And then these coefficients show the effect of each explanatory variable on the dependent variable. And in this way, you can see which variables are important and which are not. So that will depend on the level of significance, whether the variable is significant or not. And then you will see what is the sign? Is it positive? Does it positively affect or negatively affect? And all this thing. Okay. So you can evaluate the prospective customer. You can measure the probability of default in this manner.